Hey everyone, it's Sunday, so that means it's time for story time. I have a very, very special guest for you today. I have an axolotl. I know it's a little hard to see there because he has to be in water. They don't like coming out of their water. But axolotls are a type of salamander that are only found in Mexico. In fact, historically, they're only found in two types of lakes in Mexico. I have it right here. One of them was Lake Chalco, which no longer exists, and the other is Lake Xochimilco near Mexico City. Now, it's a big tourist destination, and because of tourism, there's a lot of pollution. And unfortunately, that pollution has caused the axolotls' numbers to decline. It's actually been a number of years since scientists have found any wild axolotls, but they're working very, very hard to try and get them back into the wild. So we find them in captivity all the time. Lots of pet stores have them, and lots of research laboratories have them. And with that, we were trying to transplant some of them back out into the wild again. Now, there's some really, really cool features on this guy. You can kind of see he's got these feathery-like appendages coming off of his head. Well, those are actually his gills. Those gills help him breathe, and with those big feathery gills sticking out more, it helps with more gas exchange through the water. Axolotls actually like the water kind of cold, and that's because it helps them to regenerate limbs. So, unlike a lot of animals, if they were to break their tail off, or if they were to break a leg off or something like that, they wouldn't be able to grow it back, but axolotls can. Axolotls have the ability to regenerate limbs. In fact, they've also been known to even regenerate parts of their brains. That's pretty crazy to think about. So scientists like to study these guys to try to figure out, can we transplant that to other animals? Like if we needed to regrow an organ, could we look at how an axolotl does that and maybe do that for humans at some point? Now, they have all kinds of different crazy names. Some people call them water dogs, Mexican walking lizards, whooper loopers, mud puppies, all kinds of interesting names, but axolotl is the one that we tend to go with the most. Now, they also display something called neoteny, and that means that they can grow without metamorphosing, which means an adult is going to look just like this without actually growing into a salamander. So if you look at a salamander life cycle, it's a lot like other amphibians where you have like kind of a tadpole stage and then they start growing their limbs out, and then they have like the feathery gills, then they lose the gills and become a salamander, go up on land. But axolotls don't display that. In fact, they just keep growing until they get about that long, almost 12 inches, and they still look the same as an adult as they do as a baby. They never really metamorph out and go to walk on land. In laboratory settings, we can kind of mess with them a little bit and force them to do that, in which case they start looking a lot like a tiger salamander. And we think there's a lot of similarities between them and the Texas barred salamander, Texas tiger barred salamander. But they're very, very interesting creatures who unfortunately have it pretty rough out in the wild. But as long as we continue to promote conservation, as long as we continue to promote healthy habits and cleaning up the environment, we'll hopefully one day be able to see these guys back out in the wild and have really, really healthy numbers. So with that, I am going to read him a story called Spike, the Mixed Up Monster by Susan Hood. And I'm going to try to angle the camera down so you can still kind of see him down there. It's really kind of tough with him being in the water, but that's okay. I don't want to disturb him too much. So we'll go ahead and read him an axolotl-based story. And I love axolotls. Another thing about axolotls too is when you go to a pet store, a lot of times you see them as white or gold. That's only with captive ones, and that's because people chose to breed them in order to get those colors out of them. Wild axolotls tend to be more this grayish green color. So something to keep in mind if you're ever looking at axolotls, a lot of the times the ones that you see in pet stores aren't like the ones that you see in the wild, or hopefully would see in the wild. So, Spike the Mixed Up Monster by Susan Hood. Spike was a monster, or so he thought. Got a slithered tail, spiky crown. See, I'm a monster all right, with stumpy teeth. My book cover came off. Spike spent hours practicing his monster moves. He'd swoosh that tail, shake those spikes, and bare those teeth. He'd splish, splash, splatter, and splutter. There was just one little problem. Spike was no bigger than a lily pad, so no one was afraid of Spike. "Ah, my funny little fish face," quacked El Pato. Spike shook his spikes. "Ah, amigo," said El Armadillo. "You're cuter than a bug's behind." Spike swooshed his tail. "Ay caramba, you're almost as adorable as I am," said El Campanile. Spike bared his teeth. "He has such a sweet smile," everyone agreed. Spike's crown of spikes drooped, and he sank beneath the water, settling into the scum on the bottom of the lake. "I'm a horrible monster," he thought. "A no-good, horrible monster." Early one misty morning, a traveler appeared by the lake. A monster. A real monster. One look and the animals knew what to do. Oops, sorry, I skipped a page there. So, a monster, a real monster. A Gila Monster. He was a monster as tough as they come. He wore a black mask and flicked a black tongue. Sorry, I'm having some trouble flipping the pages with our Axolotl pal sitting on my lap. Okay. One look and the animals knew what to do. "El monstruo," quacked El Pato. "Flap and fly, flap and fly." "El monstruo," cried El Armadillo. "Dig and hide, dig and hide." "El monstruo," said El Campanile. "Run inside, run inside." Only Spike was left to face El monstruo. He knew what to do. His monster moves. He shook his spikes. He bared his teeth and he swooshed his tail. He splish, splash, splattered, and spluttered. El Monstruo didn't make a move. He didn't make a sound. He stopped and stared. "Did I scare you?" asked Spike. "Scare me? No," El Monstruo laughed. "It's just that no one has ever smiled at me before." "Oh," said Spike. His crown of spikes drooped as he dropped back down into the water. "Wait," cried El Monstruo. "Wait, amigo, I need your help. I was headed for my cousin's fiesta, but I took a siesta. Now I am lost. Everyone runs away from me, so I have no one to ask for help." "Well, I can help you," said Spike, and he flashed his fellow monster a big, friendly monster grin as he pointed out the correct path. "Miss Nikki, you want to come over and say hi to the camera?" Nikki runs our education department. And she takes care of all these awesome animals, and she has the huge collection of books that I've been reading to you over the weeks. So whenever you have a birthday party or Boy Scout group or Girl Scout troop or something, Miss Nikki's the one that helps take care of all that stuff. So you want to have a party or something, that's the lady you talk to. Thank you, Miss Nikki.
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
All right. "Gracias, amigo," said El Monstruo, returning Spike's smile. "Amigo," said Spike. "De nada, mi amigo, adios." "Adios, amigo," said El Monstruo. "See you next time." And he was on his way. Slowly, carefully, El Pato, El Armadillo, and El Campanile crept out of their hiding places. "You saved us," quacked El Pato. "How did you do it?" asked El Armadillo. How did you tame the monster? Asked El Campanol. Spike just smiled. Well, that was a fun book. For any of you Spanish-speaking people out there, I'm sorry if I screwed up any of the words. I'm still trying to learn Spanish. I'm not very good at it. Sometimes I forget that the double L's aren't pronounced with L sounds. So I'm getting better at it. But there's a bunch of cool stuff in here about Mexican lizards and even some Spanish words. So I'm gonna read some of the stuff it says about Spike and his amigos. So, Spike isn't really a monster, but he is real. Spike is an axolotl, a special kind of salamander that can be found in Mexico. Axolotls range in size from 7 to 14 inches long, with the average being between 9 and 10 inches. The name axolotl comes from the native Aztec language Nahuatl, which means water monstrosity, water twin, water sprite, or water dog, after the Aztec god Axolotl. Some call the axolotl a Mexican walking fish. The Japanese call it a whooper looper. Axolotls used to be found in only 2 places in the world, Lake Chalco and Lake Xochimilco, near Mexico City. Today, Lake Chalco is gone, drained to avoid flooding, and Lake Xochimilco has become a popular tourist spot where visitors sightsee in gondolas through canals called the Floating Gardens. With the crowds comes pollution. Axolotls are critically endangered and nearly extinct because of the loss of their natural habitat. Many people keep these colorful creatures in aquariums as pets. Axolotls bred in captivity come in a variety of colors, including white, pink, yellow, gold, and green. They are bred and studied by scientists because of their strange healing power that allows them to completely regrow a lost leg, eye, and even parts of their brain. They have a Peter Pan-like ability to avoid growing up. While other salamanders lose their gills and develop lungs that help them breathe on land, not so the axolotls. They live their whole lives and even have children as youthful water babies. El Monstruo is a Gila Monster, a 2-foot-long poisonous lizard. Technically, they're a venomous lizard. There's only 2 venomous lizards on the planet, Gila monsters and beaded lizards. And they don't inject the venom through fangs like snakes do. It's actually in their saliva. So they have to bite, and the saliva has to drip down off their teeth and go down into the cut or the bite mark. The Gila monster and its cousin, the Mexican beaded lizard, are the only venomous lizards on Earth. I should have read ahead. Gila monsters hunt with their tongues. They flick them out to pick up scents in the air. The Gila monster has gotten a bad rap, and not just because of its dangerous bite. Thanks to legend and superstition, the Gila has been falsely accused of spitting venom, leaping high in the air to attack, killing people and animals with its foul breath, and even ridding itself of waste through its mouth. None of that's true. In truth, Gila monster is mostly a slow-moving, solitary animal that lives in dry or desert lands such as the southwestern U.S. and northern Mexico. While its bite is painful, it tends to shy away from humans and large animals, spending much of its time underground. Both the Gila and the Mexican beaded lizard face a high risk of extinction in the wild. El Campanol is a Mexican vole, which is about the size of a small mouse, 4.5 to 6 inches long, with a short tail and little rounded ears. Mexican voles prefer to fill up on grass, leaves, roots, bulbs, berries, nuts, seeds, and bark. Like all rodents, voles have front teeth that never stop growing. They must keep gnawing to keep their teeth from getting too long. Voles eat their way through the tall grass, creating well-run lanes, and like to hide under rocks or fallen trees. Voles eat day and night, gobbling their own body weight in 24 hours. Imagine if you ate as much as that every day. Wow. Even I learn something new every day, and I love learning. I'm always trying to read new stuff. So that is cool to learn. All right. El Pato is a cinnamon teal duck, which weighs less than a pound and measures 16 inches long, and is among the smallest ducks. There are 2 kinds of ducks, dabbling ducks and diving ducks. The cinnamon teal is a dabbling or puddle duck. It favors shallow water and skims the surface of the water for water weeds, algae, grasses, and seeds. Dabblers also tip upside down when reaching for food at the bottom of a lake or pond. The duck's nostrils are set far back from the top of its bill so it can breathe easily while dabbling underwater for food. To grind their food, the ducks don't use teeth. Instead, they swallow small stones and grit that roll around in their gizzards. Once the stones become too smooth to grind, the ducks throw them up and swallow new ones. Cinnamon teals are fast flyers. They don't need a running start but can use their wings to jump straight up from the water. And surprise, What looked like a rusty brown duck in water suddenly reveals bright blues and greens on its wings in flight. El armadillo, or if I remember correctly, double L's aren't pronounced L like L in English. Hey, armadillo, I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong, and I'm sorry for any Spanish-speaking people. I'm still trying to learn, and I always take tips on how to be better at it. But it's a nine-banded armadillo, which is about the size of a large house cat. In Spanish, armadillo means little armored one. The top of its body is protected with heavy pieces that are similar to human fingernails when the armadillo is young, but that harden as the animal grows and ages. It has no armor on its underside, only fur and skin. The armadillo usually hunts for food, beetles, flies, ants, earthworms, spiders, slugs, and snails, at night or at twilight, but can also be seen foraging midday. The armadillo is somewhat blind and easily startled. To escape enemies, it can't roll itself into a ball like other armadillos, but can dig a hole so quickly it seems to disappear. If a predator persists, it may be in for a nasty surprise. The armadillo can jump 3 to 4 feet in the air, giving its attacker a dislocated jaw. The armadillo can walk underwater, holding its breath for up to 6 minutes. For wider streams, the armadillo has a nifty trick. It can gulp air to inflate its stomach and intestines and simply float across. And then it has Spanish words on here. So, again, you guys could help me out if you know Spanish, because I don't. I've tried to learn. I'm still trying to learn. If I ever go back to Panama again, I definitely want to know the language before I go down there. But we have adios, which means goodbye. El armadillo, the armadillo. Ay caramba, oh goodness. El campano, the vole. De nada, it was nothing. Fiesta, festivities or party. Gracias, thanks. Mi amigo, my friend. El monstruo, the monster. El pato, the duck. Si, yes. Siesta, afternoon nap. I think that's one of my hardest things so far with Spanish is the double L's. And that it's a ha sound and not a la sound. So armadillo instead of armadillo. Again, if I'm saying that wrong, correct me. I'd like to be corrected on stuff like that because I don't want to offend anybody or get anything wrong. So I hope you guys enjoyed Spike the Mixed Up Monster. And I hope you enjoyed our axolotl friend. I think he enjoyed the story. His gills are all up, so he knows we were talking about him. So have a good night.